Mm, Fuzzykin of Doom. Hello, it's Alex from FGod Gaming, and I'm back with another episode of Let's Play Factorio. This episode, we're going to start exploiting that oil production that we had set up last episode a little bit, and just generally expanding to support the new stuff that I've got going on. So I'm going to be starting out with making some engines so I can actually make a car to get around my vast factory that's spread out really bad. And yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory as far as that goes. You need steel, pipe, and gear all feeding into that factory. And yeah, and obviously some power there to make it all run smoothly. Eventually, I am going to be upgrading to the electric furnace, which is definitely going to be helpful with the iron or with the steel production. But that's kind of low on the priority chart for right now. So, um, and also I need to beef up my iron production here. We are definitely using more iron than we're producing. And you'll notice throughout this episode that I'm kind of fighting off biters a lot. I think next time I play, I'm going to be focusing a little bit more on beefing up my defenses. I don't typically like having a perimeter wall set up, but I don't know, that might be something that I have to do. I do have laser turrets unlocked, so I'll probably be using those a lot more. But just in general, beefing stuff up so that I'm not having to run around repairing stuff that's been eaten and that type of thing. So anyway, we get back down here, kind of improve the defenses there. Just generally adding walls and turrets and stuff like that um, to the north end of the factory. One of the weakest spots right now is kind of the south end of the factory, down by where my power production is. And I'm sure that's creating most of the pollution as well, and that's probably hindering things. So that's definitely going to be a focus next episode when I'm kind of beefing up the defenses a little bit. And as you can see right there, this is the first round of them taking out my fuel intake there, which that happens 2 or 3 times throughout this episode, which definitely starts getting annoying after a little while. But yeah, so yeah, iron's going good there. Getting back to being backlogged, which is always a good thing. And yeah, just generally keeping things rolling along. Hopefully, sooner rather than later, I'll be replacing those furnaces with electric furnaces, and I'll quit having to run back and forth with coal and fueling those, especially since with the oil production, I'm not going to be having that fuel line running up there anymore. So it will definitely be more of a chore to refuel those furnaces. So and just keeping going with the research there. And I go through all that trouble to set up the engine factory, and I don't set up a car right away. But I do get that put together and drive down and start figuring out what to do with the oil manufacturing there. Now, I believe the first thing that I do is start producing lubricant. That's not widely used, but it's good to have a nice little stockpile for that for when you start making logistics robots and stuff like that. Just because, I don't know, I like to do that first just to kind of get it out of the way. And also, it's less heavy oil just laying around doing nothing and clogging up the works and all that good stuff. So, but yeah, that's going to be the first thing that we set up. And of course, with that, you need a chemical plant and somewhere to store the lubricant. and power, obviously. And that's pretty straightforward. It's, really easy to get that set up. The next thing I'm going to get set up is um, the fuel blocks, and then get those routed so that my uh, furnaces and my generators are running off of the oil blocks rather than coal. Uh, you don't necessarily need to do that, especially in this situation where you have a very large coal deposit nearby, but it's just good to have that light oil going somewhere so that it's not coming up the works. So, and that way you can focus your coal more on like your plastics production and your explosives and that kind of thing. So yeah, it's generally better to switch over to oil for the main things that you're going to be burning. But I don't know. I guess you don't necessarily need it to be that way. But yeah. So yeah, again, it's just a chemical plant and a pipe going to the light oil this time. I did leave room in there for expansion, and now it's just a matter of getting the fuel blocks to where they're going. And so right away, I make a line over here and kind of scout out where it needs to go for the power production. And I'm also going to split it off and go up to my iron production. So that's me taking that grenade factory out of there. Eventually, I am going to be setting that back up down closer to the coal plant, but I don't think I get to that in this episode. And yeah, just basically routing it where it needs to go. So right away it goes up to the iron production, and here shortly, once I fight off these biters that are kind of wreaking havoc on everything and taking power from my factory, we are eventually going to be putting it into that line and fueling our boilers with that. Now, yeah, of course, once your water gets knocked out, that's never good. A lot of times I'll put a couple extra water tanks on the other side of the factory or on the other side of that line, just so that if your pipes do get knocked out by biters, it's not, I mean, you do have a little bit of buffer time there, but I haven't gotten that far yet. Just checking the power consumption. Relatively quickly here, I'm going to have to add another string of boilers there, I think. But for right now, they are producing enough. The only issue I was having here was I didn't notice right away that that water pipe right next to me had burst. So that was what was holding me back. But yeah, we got it straightened out relatively quickly. And now that everything else is pretty much taken care of, just kind of beef that up a little bit and replace these turrets that got wiped out. Which was kind of nice because they wiped out of those turrets and then they just stayed in that walled in area, so they didn't really mess anything else up. But yeah. And everything else is running smoothly, so it's back to oil production here. So I am gearing my research currently to logistics robots, not necessarily for the logistics network, but just to have an automatic repair set up. I really like that feature of the robots. It's just so much easier, and once you kind of get things to the point where they can automatically replace like walls and turrets and stuff like that as well, it's so much nicer. I mean, it's a lot easier than running around like an idiot and going to fix things. So, excuse me. Yeah. So just picking up more transport belts. That fuel does have to go quite a distance, but it will be worth it once it's done. And as you can see, it's fed into the boilers, and once those boilers run out of coal, they will start picking up the solid fuel blocks, and everybody will be happy. So, luckily, I don't think I've ever had a factory that needed more than two solid fuel factories, I guess. But yeah, hopefully, I'm gonna try and make this one a little bit more expansive than I have in the past. So maybe we will have a bunch more. Who knows? But yeah. And as you can see, that copper is still running off of coal. But at this point, because I'm not really making advanced circuits or anything like that, uh, my copper production isn't as high as it really could be. But I think for at least the foreseeable future, it'll still be running off of coal. But yeah, who knows? And once that coal dries up, I might switch it over. But I mean, it's really not hurting anything to keep it running off of that. So, the next thing that I'm going to set up with the oil is my sulfuric acid factory, which that's used for all sorts of good stuff. And of course, the first step in that is sulfur, and you have to have a supply of water and your petroleum gas, and then that goes into another chemical plant that needs water and the sulfur, and it makes the sulfuric acid. So, and just a quick break to defend my factory again, which they've taken out quite a bit of that. Luckily, the resources that aren't on the belt don't get consumed, which is a nice feature I've always found, because that could really screw me over sometimes when it's doing that. But yeah, as I mentioned, I'm definitely going to have to take some steps and make it so that the biters aren't destroying my factory every 5 minutes. But that will have to wait until next episode. And until then, take care and don't forget to like and subscribe.